Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you another video. All right, so a collective bargaining agreement has been reached between the Players Association and the NBA. Very, very happy to hear this news. There won't be any risk of a lockout. There won't be any off-season drama. Excuse me. The idea is to expand some things as it pertains to players having an option, things like that, team options, things like that. I don't quite understand it, so I ain't going to try to explain it. But they've come to an agreement that would allow for a bit more flexibility as it pertains to certain things in regards to building teams. So that's pretty cool. You need a 65 minimum game uh, having been played if you want to qualify for certain awards. So if you play less than 60 games, you ain't gonna be an MVP, an all-star, none of that. You better play 65 or just you're automatically out. I think that's gonna affect things in a lot of ways. I don't know if it's bad at all. I don't think it's bad necessarily, but it does turn the trajectory on certain things that you're looking at from here on out. Like certain players who've been in the Hall of Fame, certain players who've been All Stars. Now trying to compare them to the past era, you're gonna have to say before they put the minimum on it, just to be accurate. So certain things it just come with change. It's not anything that anyone can do anything about, and I don't really have a problem with it. Um, let's see some other stuff as well, but I didn't quite understand it, so I'm not gonna sit up here and try to explain it to everybody. Shams and Woj both dropped the bomb, and essentially that's the the gist of it. I think it's a 7-year agreement with opt out for either side in the 6th year. I believe that's how that goes. So this could be another process in 6 years, but I think everybody's happy that this didn't come to a serious head. I'm happy that ultimately the NBA won't have to remove the product from the fans. And it seems like it might be better overall, just my loose understanding of what it is that I read. Uh, Seems like they came to a conclusion that everybody's pleased with, I guess. It didn't seem like anything extreme on one end or another. I think all in all, this would be something that you would go to somebody else for real information on. But at least I could tell you this happened and that we're in a space where we don't have to worry about a lockout. So that's the most important thing in regards to this news, man. And of course, now marijuana no longer seen as a drug in the NBA's eyes starting next year when the beginning of this happens. Now, right now, it's still listed as a drug, but from here on out, they're going to be real liberal about the weed. Now, I don't know how tricky that's going to be for certain players because you're still going to be in certain states that have not legalized marijuana. So I don't know if the NBA is kind of opening the door for certain guys to get in trouble, but I'm sure they've worked that part out. And if they haven't, I hope they see my video. We need to try to, as a country, figure out some parity in regards to certain laws, in my humble opinion. And that's a good one to address as well. We just want to make sure that people aren't getting in trouble for stuff that they shouldn't be getting in trouble for, and that they revisit certain laws, so that guys who are locked up for stuff that they shouldn't be locked up for can have an opportunity at an appeal, and based on what makes sense for their circumstances, maybe even be released. Because I think that makes a whole lot of sense to a lot of us. So that's one thing I wanted to say just on a social level. But all in all, we're very happy that the NBA did this. We're happy that there's still more news possibly being trickled down in regards to the agreement, since the marijuana news came out after the news on the collective bargaining agreement was released. So maybe there's more stuff to tell us. But all in all, they came to a conclusion, a peaceful one. I wonder what this means for Adam Silver. I read somewhere that he essentially said he's happy with his job and not interested in moving on to any other position. I know he was offered the Disney position, or was maybe not offered it, but it's kind of rumored that he has that on the table for himself. And I guess he addressed those rumors in that way. And I wonder if what I'm looking at has anything to do with him trying to continue to expedite the process of looking good in the eyes of others by way of taking care of this before anything came to any type of news or head. Obviously, there's a lot of motivation for getting this done on both sides, but I look at Adam Silver's point of view and I just wonder if he expedited the process a little sooner, just based on everything surrounding his name and how good it looks if you do so. So that's just what was in my mind from his point of view. And from the players' point of view, I think the players feel real good about just the marijuana part of the thing. I know that the league has their own. I don't want to say anything that I don't know these guys, but I'd imagine a lot of those guys are pro marijuana. They grew up in the era where marijuana wasn't the worst thing in the world. And I'm pretty sure they're ready to live their lives comfortably, professionally, while having the option to use that. Um, and so I'm pretty sure there are a lot of players in the league who are relieved at this point, and I think it's going to make for a happier overall environment. Um, so that's what I'm curious to see how that's going to translate. Um, you know what I mean? I'm just curious to see if everybody's going to start playing different, if it's going to affect what we see on the court, because dudes is like literally going to be running around without that being a problem. And as somebody who's been smoking weed for a long time, not every weed is equal. I know this for a fact. Some weeds will have you very focused. Others will have you throwing the ball off your head. It just depends on what you're smoking, how much of it, and who you are. So I think that could be kind of funny in certain situations if dudes take that too far or don't know what they're doing or what have you. But I don't think too many people in society who smoke are in a space where they're completely oblivious about that kind of thing. I don't think we're there. So there should be some education continue to be pushed along to go along with everything that the NBA is changing with. I think there should be some coaching, I guess, to help players with whatever they'll need to do to make these adjustments as things change in the NBA. And so that's just curious to me. You know what I mean? Seeing what the NBA is trying to become a little bit more liberal about certain things. I wonder if they'll start to loosen up over the next 20 years about other things. I've been talking about PEDs, and I just think that it's a science that is got a lot of potential in it, and I don't think it should be written off as the worst thing in the world or something that we should never study. I think that people said the same thing about marijuana 30 years ago, and now look where we are. I just think we need to open our minds to what that can be if utilized correctly, and what does utilized correctly entail? How does that look? What's safe? Those are the things I want us to learn, or others to learn and incorporate into what sports is about today, because I just think that technology should not be poo-pooed. When I think about the NFL, and this is where my mind goes, but it's separate, but it's not in a way. When I think about the NFL, and I think about the problem that they have with CTE, when I think about the problem they have with making certain things safer, the helmet safer, and things of that nature, the one thing that comes to mind that may not be considered is what PED technology may be able to do in that way. I don't know that there would be anything, but I think it's something to explore or develop if you're a scientist. Like, that might be your in. It might not be in the technology. It might actually be in the medicine. It might actually be in strengthening bones, strengthening muscles, and ultimately making guys more capable of taking on the impact somehow. Now, I'm not saying we're anywhere near that technology. I'm just saying that's where people should be sniffing and scratching and trying to pair and do all the scientific stuff to try to make that the thing. I think that's where it's at. Because guys are getting faster, stronger, and all of that anyway. So if there's something to help make the game either safer or make it so that there's more parity or healing from injury more so, I don't think it should be something that we just say, nah, let's not do that because it's not natural. I don't believe that. I think that there are ways to make guys healthier, get the most out of guys without souping them up and turning them into the Incredible Hulk. And if there is such a way, then I think it should be figured out and implemented into sports every day. But we're a long way away from that. I don't think we have necessarily the medicine that makes sense yet. I'm just saying it should be experimented with and then mastered if possible. So that's what I have to say about that. All in all, with the news coming out, it just makes me feel a lot better about my team being able to build for this off season. Obviously, I'm a Laker fan, so if you ask me, I think we're pretty much built. But that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that we just came out of a blocked off season where not only my team but several other teams couldn't make any moves. We saw how problematic that was for the product on the floor for the first half of the season, and we see how it's affecting teams now as they change and other teams are adjusting to the change of the field mid-season. I think that this collective bargaining agreement being reached helped assure that this offseason and maybe the next 7 are nothing like that. Not to say that this locked up the market, because I don't believe it did at all. What locked up the market was something completely different. But I think this looming definitely had something to do with why people were so hesitant to move in a locked market. Not knowing what was coming with the collective bargaining agreement, not knowing if the moves they made actually made sense to do, if there were some type of lockout for the next 2 years, 3 years, or whatever, which we didn't see coming, but you didn't want to play around with that if you had a timeline that would overlap. So these are the type of things that I look at and I say, okay, the NBA did themselves a favor by making sure they took care of this and making sure that nothing like this was looming going forward, so that there would be one less thing in the way of teams being able to build properly and move freely throughout the market in the offseason. So I'm hopeful the NBA will never allow that to happen again. I don't want anything to lock up the market or keep us from seeing the best product on the floor. My team was completely incomplete to start the season, and it took a long time for us to get the pieces we want, and we're still fighting for our playoff lives because of it, with a team that's 10 times better than our record, it seems. We believe we're a lot better than our record. I don't know if that benefits the league or not when you look at seeding and how upsets can be possible, but what I can say is it's nerve-wracking for the fans. In the first half of the season, our fans were paying for a product that wasn't any good, and we know it. And so that's what it really comes down to. It was nobody's fault. The team didn't want to do that. They were just locked up. They couldn't make moves. And so I think that's something that the NBA itself can and may just have done something about. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that that's the case and we don't see anything like that again. I didn't hear anything about the lowering of the ages for eligibility, and I know that's something they've been mulling over and really kind of debating about. So I'm curious to see if the next Woj bomb will be that they've had some type of conclusion in regards to that, because they ain't mentioned nothing about that, and I know that's a big topic one way or another. So I'm waiting on that, man. And as far as eligibility with the kids, I just think that now we have the development league in place, it's so much safer to draft guys out of high school now. It's so much safer, because the problem was back in the day when Kobe and them was coming out, is it was, feast or famine. Dude was either going to be Tracy McGrady or he was going to fizz out and be somebody you never heard of. And so now you could send homie you never heard of to the G League and have him stay down there for as long as necessary to develop him, if he doesn't come out the gate like T-Mac and Kobe. Even Kobe didn't come out the gate like that. So this gives teams an opportunity to just overall have a more cushion in regards to what they want to do in drafting young players. And so that's what I really like about the circumstance right now, is that, you can see the NBA lowering the age and it balancing out in comparison to what they were looking at 20 years ago. It's not the same league, so it shouldn't be the same results. And I like that. I really like that a lot. So hopefully they'll lower the age and make it so that some of these kids can skip going to Lithuania and skip going to, doing all the stuff that may not necessarily benefit them if they're good enough to play in the NBA this year. And while we haven't seen any cautionary tales as of yet, the last thing you wanted to have heard of was Luka Doncic tearing his ACL before he was drafted. That's what you didn't want. And luckily enough, it never happened. But you consider that so many talented players are playing overseas just because they're not eligible, or in different situations of college just because they're not eligible. And we know this would have been a good season for them to showcase their talent in the NBA. It would have helped the team. You know what I mean? So that kind of thing is like, yeah, are there a bunch of kids that wouldn't develop and who would be duds, come out of college, high school, and not have any maturity and would probably cause a lot of problems? I think that the environment for that is obvious when you're talking about youngsters. But at the end of the day, you also got an opportunity to grab some young talent, get them in here early, and have them be a part of your situation, and have them, start the historical process sooner. Some of these guys, you don't know how good they're going to be, but when they look back on their careers and they miss the first 3 years of their career because of circumstances, it does have a historical effect on them. It can be the difference between being Steve Nash and Steve Kerr, on a basketball court. Like, it could be the difference. So I think guys should always, of course, look to refine their games and all these different things. But most importantly, the NBA's got to find a way to kind of help them in this way. So that's what I want to say about that. So yeah, man, that's where my head is. You know, I'm fairly optimistic that the NBA is headed in a very good direction when you see them come to a conclusion like this. The last couple of collective bargaining agreements ended with controversy, ugliness, lockouts. Uh, Sometimes a little more than peace, I guess you could say. But this go round, it was like a thief in the night, quiet style. Nobody wanted any trouble. Been through enough for the last 3 years. Let's just have our agreement and keep something in place we could both palate over the next 7 years to see how it plays out. And so that's what they did, and I'm very happy that they did it as a fan. And so now I look forward to seeing how it all trickles down. Of course, we're going to get educated on what it is that they actually did. Um, and not have a roundabout understanding. I think it has something to do with veterans getting an extra extension or something like that. I think that's how they did it. They extended the veterans. They said 65 games is your minimum, so you better play those or else. And there was some other stuff too that I just don't remember, didn't understand, or probably wouldn't be able to explain anyway. So that's what it is, you guys. Collective bargaining agreement has been reached, and the NBA and the Players Association are at peace. BDL 44. I thank you all for watching.